to the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, and here you'll find teaching topics, interviews, conversations, and coaching tips, all designed to help you level up. We all lead someone. The question is, are we leading well, exceptionally well? So join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Hey, exceptional leaders. Today, I want to talk about something that's going to both fit with a theme that P4 Power Coaching is following this month, but also it's going to answer a question that I'm often asked from people. So many times, people want to know, like, what do you do at P4 Power Coaching? So I know it's business coaching, but like, what does that mean? What do you specialize in? And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to talk about a recent proposal that I created for someone who's now a client. We're actually doing a contract with them, and talk about some of the things that were needs for this particular client, and that's going to fit within the theme of money makers and money savers. Because at P4 Power Coaching, if you don't know, the 4 Ps stand for people, processes, performance, and profitability. And the thing is, if we are focused on our people, and that's a large segment of both expertise as well as focus and intentionality. But if we focus on the people side of it, that is, if I were going to put a percentage on it, I would say that you need to focus on people, like that's 50%. That's half of your time and energy needs to go into what you do to make sure that you are inspiring people, educating people, motivating people, encouraging people, training people, communicating with people, showing care to your people, accountability. I mean, you name it. I'm probably going into the 7 core invisible drains, which you can watch a previous or listen to a previous episode if you want to know more about that. But all of those people issues and skills, that is going to directly impact the net profitability of your company or organization. You know, the mission of P4 Power Coaching is to power up the income, the net profits, and the sustainability of American business. And this is our way of making a difference in the world. Because if we strengthen our businesses in America in a way that has integrity, where work ethics are involved, with dignity, humility, and in an others-centered focus, this nation, and frankly this world, I believe, will be a better place. So at P4 Power Coaching, people, that's like the foundation. We usually start with my P4 personality perspective. We do assessments that's part of the coaching scope on all of the individuals. We look at team dynamics. We look at strengths and weaknesses, giftings and talents, job fits. We use it with marketing. There's just so much meat that, again, all affects and strengthens and builds the net profits of an organization because we do that work. But once we really dig into the foundation of the people, then we're quickly looking at processes. And I often say that a lot of things that we initially call people problems are really process problems. There's a broken process, there's a missing process, or and I've been finding this more and more with my coaching clients, there's actually a process in place, but the process is not being followed. So any of those 3 process issues we're looking for, we're helping identify, and then we work with our clients to address them. Because when you take care of those processes, things become more streamlined, more organized, sometimes more automated, and it saves a ton of money, time, and energy. And we focus on performance. specifically, whether it's people performance, whether it's equipment performance, whether it's leadership performance, but we're looking at the performance, because if we get all of those elements performing at a high enough stage, then what happens is the bottom line becomes much, much blacker. And of course, all of this, there needs to be net profitability, because if a company cannot produce net profits, then frankly, they're not going to be able to sustain themselves for the long term. And you see many businesses actually die and go away from a growth perspective. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that growth can actually be as dangerous or more dangerous than when you're new. So we look at profitability for many reasons, but specifically and especially if there's a growth phase. So that's kind of the basis. So P4 Power Coaching is people, processes, performance, and profitability. By having that focus, it is amazing what we can catch, what we can clean up, and how much more cash flow and cash income and cash profit can be produced for an organization. But let's just talk. I thought it'd be kind of fun to give an example of a current client. So for this client, first off, one of the initial things that I'm doing with anyone who approaches us about doing a business coaching contract is I want to make sure that we are truly meeting their needs. So I have a series of kind of interview questions, if you will, that help me quickly get down to the heart of what that business needs. And so for this particular business, what we determined is there is a cash flow issue, there is an income issue, and there's certainly a net profitability issue. And so as I asked more questions and went into some deeper layers of my coaching questionnaire, we determined that we needed to focus on a few things. So we have some primary coaching objectives. And so any proposal that I produce for a potential client, I identify from that questionnaire and from my interview with them what the most beneficial coaching objectives for them would be. So in this case, we're going to do one of our P4 Power Coaching undercover customer assessments. So what is that? Well, it's kind of like, think about mystery shopping, or like anonymous shopping. So what we do is we pretend to be a customer, and we put ourselves in that customer mindset. We look at the business through a customer's eyes, and we have a very healthy multi-page assessment tool resource that we've developed that we look at many, many issues within the business. So, I mean, think about if it's a brick and mortar physical business, we're looking at everything from their online profiles, their websites, social media, to then like their parking, signage, restrooms, customer service desks, stations, whatever the case may be. We're calling on the phone and pretending that we're either a customer or a potential customer, and we're asking questions, and we're getting a sense of how your employees are treating customers on the other end of the line. Sometimes we go into the business and we pretend to be a customer or a potential customer. And again, getting that sense of, do your employees make a customer feel? What are their facial expressions or body language, as well as the tone of voice and the words that they're saying? What kind of experience is that creating for customers? So for this client, we don't do this necessarily in every coaching scope, but for this client, it really made sense to get that kind of reality check. And that's what a P4 Power Coaching undercover customer assessment does. It creates a reality check. A few years ago, I did one of these for a client in Florida. And one of the interesting things that came out of that, they had literally, and it still just breaks my heart. They had spent tens of thousands of dollars on renovating and putting in new signage throughout their property. And they were the type of business that signage was very important. It was multi-acred business, and they needed lots and lots of signage. Not to mention, as you approach the business from both directions, they had multi pieces of physical signage, both for marketing as well as for direction. So as part of that assessment, I was looking at their signage. And so I'm looking, of course, at readability, marketability, looking at like the content itself. Is it easily understandable? Does it fulfill the purpose for which it's supposed to be created for? So I'm looking at all of that. Well, this client had spent these tens of thousands of dollars, and they had beautiful signs. There was only one problem. The landscape in Florida, by the colors and everything, they created a color scheme on all of these signs that actually blended into the landscape. So they actually were hard to read. Sometimes you easily could even overlook and not realize the sign was there. They blended that well. It was literally as if the landscape around the signage camouflaged the message. And so they almost were obsolete. And one of the invisible drains this particular business had was that they were constantly having to answer these questions from customers on site, either about direction, what they were supposed to do, that should have alleviated a lot of those questions just by the availability of signage that they had placed strategically around the property, but it wasn't working because it wasn't easily visible. So they did it for the aesthetics. Yes, it was pleasing to the eye, but when it was placed within that landscape, it was camouflaged, so it negated any benefit that they thought they were going to get. It was so sad, and I hated to have to tell them that, but as that part of that P4 Power Coaching Undercover customer assessment, we had to. And they ended up reinvesting and having all of that signage remade. So frankly, they spent double the amount of money on the signage. However, because of what it ended up saving in labor dollars, because when your employees are constantly having to answer those very basic questions that your signage should cover, that's preventing them from doing something more productive and more progressive in your business. They could be taking care of other jobs that need to be done. They could be producing income for your company, but instead they are pulled away and they're distracted. And it's necessary distraction. You have to answer customer questions, but it was unnecessary because frankly, that signage should have been working for them. So it ended up saving who knows how much money, time, and energy from having to take care of those very basic questions that the customers had. But the other thing it did from a marketing perspective, because see, your marketing, you don't want it to be gaudy, but you do need to make sure that your marketing captures and arrests attention. It needs to stand out. It does. You don't want your marketing to blend. There needs to be a pop of enough brightness or boldness that's going to arrest the attention and stop someone so they're going to look at it. Your message and your marketing needs to be succinct. It needs to be clear, and it needs to give that customer very quickly a sense of why they want that experience with you, whatever that is, whether it's a service or whether it's a product or goods, but you want to make sure that they can feel what your product or service is going to do for them, because it's all about them. So in reality, even though they did spend double the amount of money, it still ended up, it's going to pay off and has paid off in the long run, because now their signage is actually doing its job. And so they are able to take that money, time, and energy, spend it somewhere else that's more productive. But so this new client, we're going to be doing that kind of undercover customer assessment with them. So that's going to be fun. Well, something else that we're going to be doing with this particular client is we're going to be looking at sales and reservation system. So they're doing a lot of things the old-fashioned way, just by, paper and pen. And you'd be amazed that there's still some businesses out there that do that, but there's quite a few of the smaller businesses that are. And when I say smaller businesses, I mean, literally, I have worked with multi-million dollar companies. They're small. They're not, like Fortune 500 companies, but they're still very healthy multi-million dollar companies that were still doing a lot of things by hand that could have been done with electronics or even some of it automated. I'm often today, even a lot of companies that do some things digitally, it still stuns me how they still will have processes where it's like they have to walk from space A to space B, interrupt someone's thought process to have a conversation or ask questions, when in reality, much of that could have been done digitally. And there are so many resources available today that are inexpensive, and that actually will help us save and make more money. But people just don't think about it. Sometimes you're just too close to it. Or because of what I do and the blessing of working with so many businesses through the years and across industries, what's really cool is I get to bring something I may learn from one business or industry, and then I get to share some of that information with all of my other clients. So that's really a side benefit that just happens. But we're going to help them automate their sales and their reservation systems. So we don't actually do reservation systems, but as a business coach, I have a lot of ready resources and referrals that I can give, but I just need to assess what the right one is for that client. Something else that so many of my clients have never done is they've never really identified their preferred customer or client avatar. So what is an avatar? An avatar is that average customer or client who frequents your business. They open up their bank account to pay you money to do business with you, either for the services or the products that you provide. But most of us don't stop and think, what type of customer or client do we prefer to do business with? When you identify who your ideal average customer is, someone you want to have frequenting your business and referring you to their family, friends, and coworkers, that's the person you want to target in your marketing. So this is what we're going to be doing with this client. We're going to help them develop a marketing plan to attract their preferred customer avatar. Again, such fun work. I love that. We're also going to be doing a website evaluation for them. So we'll review their website. We do this up to so many pages depending on the coaching scope. Sometimes we have people who hire us just to do a website evaluation. That's all they want us to do. We don't do like a whole coaching scope with them. Some people hire us to do a website and a social media evaluation where we evaluate their presence online and are they brand congruent? That's something I'm very passionate about, that not only do you make sure that you have solid branding, but you need to make sure that you brand yourself congruently across platforms. So your website, there needs to be a certain vibe, a certain feel to your brand there on your website that, by the way, needs to match the customer experience when they're on site with you if you have a physical presence. And so many times we'll market one way, but that is not what the customer or client is going to experience. And I'm telling you right now, you're undermining yourself if you're marketing that way. But in leadership, whether or not marketing is our direct baby or not, we still have a responsibility to have some oversight over the marketing that's done. And so brand congruency needs to be in the forefront of your mind. Not to mention the fact that each of us has a personal brand. And if you want to know more about that, I actually have a personal branding ebook available. You can go to my website, anitabrooks.com. I'm not going to get into all of that in this episode, but think about what brand you're projecting. Is there professionalism that you exude in your persona, in your dealings with other people? And so there's a lot of key elements that you need to be aware of so that your personal branding is what you want and need it to be. But the same is true for a business. There needs to be brand congruency. We need to make sure that people start to get a feel, like for P4 Power Coaching. Now, I had to really work on going and doing a branding overhaul on myself a couple of years ago. And so now I'm very proud of the fact that there is brand congruency. If you go to my website, you're going to get a certain feel, and some of it's going to be subconscious or subliminal, but you'll see that certain color palettes and you'll see certain messaging. So it's very important to me that I'm authentic, that there's integrity, and yet there's my natural personality that shines through. So I am warm and approachable by nature. I hear this a lot from people. I want my website and my social media presence to exude the same. But I'm also like a very no-nonsense, stuff and fluff, common sense gal. I get down to the practical. I want to drive my clients to data-driven decisions and not just these like spontaneous, it feels this way. Well, you can't measure feel. You can only measure data. So I'm very practical in that way. And that's one of those things that I hold my clients accountable for and I help them execute on. But I need my brand to project both sides of my personality, the warm and approachable, but and the personalized. Like I'm passionate that you as a client, when you work with me, you get a personalized experience. It's going to be, what do you need? Not what I think, what you need. Yes, I bring expertise into all of that and experience and a plethora of available resources and exercises and things that I've developed from decades of doing this kind of work that I know will help my clients go to the next level, go to the zenith. The word zenith means to the highest state possible. I want to take my clients to the highest state possible. And so a lot of this work that we do brings that to the table. My brand needs to reflect that. So whether you see social media posts, whether it's something in my podcast, whether it's an e-blast that you get from me. And if you haven't signed up for my monthly e-blast, just go to my website. You can, if you do my P4 personality assessment, then that's going to get you on our list. If you sign up for any of my resources that are free on my website, then that's going to get you on our list. But I'm really striving to make sure that I'm providing content that is both brand congruent but it also meets the needs of my client basis. Look, I have a pretty good feel for who you are. I have a really good feel for who I'm not right for, but I have a pretty good feel for who I am right for. And so I want to better meet your needs. And I'm getting better all the time of understanding that my clients and my followers and listeners, you want to know more and more about the real life work that I do and learning from that so you can apply some of that to your life. That's what I'm trying to provide. And hopefully I'm doing a really good job in being brand congruent in how I present that. So when you see something, you're like, oh, that must be P4 Power Coaching. Another thing that we look at, depending who the client is and what their needs are, their most immediate needs are, sometimes, and this is one of the things that we're going to be doing with this client, we're going to be looking at all of their marketing materials, just to make sure that they're brand congruent with the website, with the social media, with the customer experience. And if we do that and we do that with them and it's done well, what's going to happen? It is going to naturally beef up the additional income that they can derive from what they do. Because when you are congruent, it feels like you can be trusted. There's a higher level of professionalism that takes place with that. And so it's really interesting to me how you can measure across years historically when you've done this. And you can see that the better a business gets at being at brand congruency, by far how much a higher percentage of income and cash flow and net profitability takes place with them. It takes a little bit of, well, not a little bit, it takes a lot of work on the front end. Some of it's fun work, some of it's not so fun. It's a little grit, a lot of digging in. But when you do it, and some of it's just one and done. You don't have to keep redoing that work. But when you do that work, I'm telling you, it builds and reinforces your business. It builds and reinforces your trustworthiness in the eyes of the client or customer, your ideal preferred avatar. And you will get more of the business that you want, which is amazing. For this client, we're also evaluating their employee pool. What are they doing with their time? And are there opportunities for higher and best use time management with those employees? So that's going to be something that's going to directly impact the bottom line of this business as well. We're going to be looking at the potential for increasing customer traffic. And I know with this business, and I usually can do a pretty good job. And I'll tell you, I'm usually low because I'm conservative when I project, but I can do a pretty good job of projecting what I think that we can help them increase their customer traffic by. And so we'll also be looking at different ways that we might be able to expand their income. So their gross income and again, with this business, because of the evaluation I've already done, I already have like a whole list of ideas. But then one thing that I will do is, as a certified facilitator, I will actually take them, the whole team, and we will have a brainstorming session and I will get them involved. And this is one of those exercises I love to do with my businesses, is take them through an exercises of coming up with even more ideas to generate more income. Through the years, I have seen so many just astounding ideas that have come from some of these brainstorming events where someone says something that triggers a thought in somebody else, another thought, and then all of a sudden somebody comes up with this like brilliant idea that just like bloop comes out of the mouth, but it happened organically because of that facilitated brainstorm. So I love that. And I know that's going to happen. Most of the time with my clients, when we go through that kind of exercise, though, it's not just one good idea. Usually there's at least 5 or 6 great ideas. And so then you get the multiplicity effect. So you get a multiple factor of income producing ideas. Not all of them pan out, but some of them end up working even better than anyone could have imagined. And it's always just a good outcome. And of course, then we're going to be looking at their online customer reviews. So I do like to make work fun, even though I'm very practical and strategic and mission-minded. I still like to have fun. And one of the fun things I like to do is look at online customer reviews, sit down with leadership and pull out a handful of examples and then show them a really effective way to make negative online customer reviews become positives. For instance, I like to think about problems and how I can turn them upside down. And so if I see someone complaining about something, then I ask myself, what can I do to turn that over? What can I do to take what is a negative and make it a positive? How can I win them over by saying, we heard you, we appreciate your feedback, and we've worked really hard to make the changes so this kind of situation does not occur again. And when you do that, when you acknowledge, I call it fess up when you mess up. When you fess up when you mess up, but then you take action steps to correct, like people respect that. And that can become a huge win. That is turning a problem upside down. That can be a huge win for a business, because then people see that like you're serious about wanting to make sure that you please them, that you do the job well, that you're professional, and you're not arrogant, you're not narcissistic, you're not defensive. If we need to work on something, we're just going to take the bull by the horns and we're going to do it. And of course, then we'll also take this client through plugging the 7 core invisible drains. But by putting all of this together, what's going to happen is we're going to identify inefficiencies. We're going to determine where there are training lapses. We're going to see where there may be some chaos, some confusion in the moment that we're going to turn into organization and streamlined processes down the line. There's some very specific things that we'll do with this client as we work with them. And, we'll see what happens. But what's really neat is with this particular new coaching client, I'm projecting that just in this year alone, that we will produce an additional $25,000 to $50,000 in new income. I'll be honest with you, I really think it could easily double that, but just for safety's sake, I'm only estimating $25,000 to $50,000 that there will be additional gross profits for this company. All of this that I've shared with you today, it makes me want to challenge you and encourage you to think about your business. If you want to save and make more money, think about the different factors that I've talked about that I'm looking at when I go into a coaching scope. Are you brand congruent? Does your messaging match the experience for your customer or client? What are your employees projecting and presenting? Because they're the face and voice of your business. Are there things that you as a leader need to do to more support and equip your people to do a better job? Is there training? Are there materials, resources, tools that they need to help them do a better job for you and for your business? Are there ways that you can expand your income? Could you put your creative minds together and come up with ideas? You as a leader influence all of those factors, whether they're under your direct purview or not. These are things that you are influencing, that you are guiding. So make sure that you are guiding and leading well, exceptionally well, because the financial outcome of that business is impacting many families, many lives, and it is affecting our nation overall. We need strong, sustainable American businesses. And at P4 Power Coaching, this is our mission to create more. We need you. We want you to be a part of this mission for a greater good. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. There's magic in meeting with an objective, and I always have an objective for you, not only in these episodes, but also from the other resources I offer on my website, anitabrooks.com. That's ANITABROOKS.com. There you'll find information on digital courses, webinars, books, workbooks, of course, my in-person P4 Power Coaching for businesses and organizations. And if you need a speaker for your conference or your strategic retreat, I'm your gal. But I'm also excited to let you know about a new service that we're offering. For less than half the price of a daily Starbucks latte for a month, you can join our P4 Power Coaching community. This is a monthly membership where you'll get insider tips. And you'll also be able to join our monthly Zoom meetings that are one part strategy sessions, one part mastermind, one part networking, one part coaching. I can promise you'll not only learn from me, but you'll learn from others in the group. We'll also have monthly webinars as part of the P4 Power Coaching community, and we'll have coaching resources and exercises. And you'll get first opportunities and special offers for many of the other things that we have to offer. And of course, you will get leadership encouragements. The P4 Power Coaching community is all about growth, success, and celebrating our wins. And remember, it's never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. So embrace your exceptional leadership impact with fresh resolve to make the difference you were made for.